Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Taking the time to join us and spend with us tonight. What's happening? What are y'all doing? What is going on? Yes, I'm missing a couple of guitars in here, but that's okay. That's okay. We're still going to do a great show tonight. Geraldine Orozco will be with us momentarily, but first, let's give roll call. Acreon taking home the silver medal or the gold medal tonight. Race fan with the silver. Blessed by the best takes home their first bronze medal tonight. Logan L. Michael Leger. Yes, the Michael Leger is here. Grand Paul Holland, good to see you. Mennonite Abe, gorgeous. Kathy Evans, what's happening? Kevin, Nightmare, what are you doing? How you been doing? George Almaraz is here. George will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind. To the left of the studio. All right, moving on here. We have the gorgeous Cosmic Floor. Thank you for coming on in. And Toe Tag is here. The gorgeous Becky Belling has returned. She'll be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio. To the right. All right, National Memorial, good to see you. Thanks for coming on in. Cornroy, welcome to SOR Chat. And Doug Shelby is here. The Doug Shelby. The stunning Xochitl Paez has returned for the first time this week. John Swan, Bob Berkins, how are you? Thank you for joining us. And who else do we have here in the chat? Gabrielle Lucien Liem, how are you? Welcome to the chat room. And who else do we have? Jesse Peak, Jake Davis, Millennium, the gorgeous Jenny White Bear. How are you? Richard Elmore, good to see you. Grandmaster, a.k.a. The Gong Show, is back. Drew Banky, how's your little one doing, man? I'm watching them pictures every day, praying for your little boy there, man. I hope he's doing good and getting strength each and every day. Much love from all of us at Spaced Out Radio, my friend. Enzo, what's happening, man? Mr. Lurks-a-Lot. Amy A.R., welcome to SOR Chat. Dirty Filth, good to see you. Bigfoot Michigan Rob, Eris Mana, Enzo again, because I just like saying Enzo. All right, there we go. Now, I'm over it now. Fapster, what's happening, buddy? And Alatro, what's going on? Thank you for joining us. And who else do we have hanging on out here? The gorgeous Simply Coco. What is your drink of choice for tonight? Please let us know. Hi, Scott. The gorgeous Aussie Ange. Thank you for joining us. Project Blue Book. Good to see you back. Ufologist Matthew Kennedy. And it's good to have all of you here tonight as we get things going here on the show. Art and Paranormal. Looking good. Thank you for joining us. Give me a quick sec here. And, yeah, thank you. Third Rock, welcome to SOR Chat. Nicola, good to see you. Stevie Franchise, what's happening? A Experiencer, welcome to the chat room. Vash the Impaler, good to have you here, my friend. Let's get the radio side started here. And... let's see here. We're just waiting on Geraldine Orozco. Greg O'Brien, the Scowling Wonder, they call him. The Scowling Wonder. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Hello, Mr. Taco Face. Thank you. And don't forget, let's see here. Got an important message today from our good friend Dave Schrader. Yeah, Dave Schrader has asked me to pass along all to you that he has a Memorial Day weekend event coming up at the Randolph County Asylum. Speakers and paranormal investigating 2-day full packages or single day packages are available at darknessevents.com. Darknessevents.com. And yeah, we got about 30 seconds, and now my heart can start beating again. My heart is now beating. Super chat is open. It's a great way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. 416, how are you, buddy? Good to see you. And we got like 10 seconds left, and we're going to have some fun tonight. Do me a favor, everyone. Let's just get to it. Horns up. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and now on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. Of course, Geraldine Orozco, we will bring her in momentarily. She returns for the spiritual you as we get into ET contact and hybrids tonight. Then in hour number 3, we're going to bring you a story from the swamp, courtesy of Swamp Dweller. Bigfoot Rob fills in for World Bigfoot Radio's Super Duke on the Cryptid Report. We're going to see how the Magic 8-Ball does tonight, if it needs to be cleansed from its demons again or not. Shirky Poo's got the news as well. Our good friend Geraldine Orozco from Bay Area Meditation in San Francisco, California, joins us for the Spiritual You. She has been going hard at changing lives since 2013 after she had her own activation of psychic abilities, and then in 2017 had several hypnotic regressions with vetted therapists. These regressions showed a long life of history with abduction from aliens and participation in the human hybridization program. If you want to know more, you can always go to GeraldineOrozco.com. We love it when Geraldine is here, and her hair is looking fantastic as per usual. And apparently, you can't see him, but she got a nice pair of shoes on as well. Geraldine, I'll get you to unmute your mic. Hello, how are you doing, beautiful?
I am fantastic. So happy to hear. How are you?
I am doing good. In a couple of weeks, we'll be down in San Francisco for UFO Con, and we're going to meet up and we're going to hang out and probably have a high five or two. And then, a month later, we get to hang out again because you're going to join all the SOR fans in Las Vegas at the Golden Nugget, April 22nd and 24th for just a hangout session. And I'm going to be honest with you. I want to see if you go down that slide right through the Shark Tank.
The slide. There's a slide. Yeah. All right. Let's do it.
I want to see that. I'm not going. My luck, that tank will break, and then a giant shark with teeth all over the place is going to say, "Hey, Canadian boy, you're coming with me for dinner." Right?
Oh, no. Okay.
Not taking that chance. It's always good to see you, my friend.
Hey, same here. Missed you. It was the months went by so quickly, though, and here we are again, March, ready to go.
I tell you, it is hard to believe it's already March, and we're ready to go on this year. Geraldine, we always have listeners who may not know your story, but it all changed for you in 2013. For me, it was 2011. There was a lot of people between that 2010 2010 and 2014 that just had their entire lives shift into this field. What happened during that time, Geraldine? Have you been able to figure that out?
You know what? Energetically, it was the beginning of all of these changes that are happening. I think things happen in cycles, and we had gone through another major cycle in 2020, like at the very beginning of all of this. And literally 2013 was like the very end point of that energetic signature for those 10 years there. And now begins another one in 20 now we're in the second year of 2022, 2020, which is beginning another cycle, 10-year cycle. So it's really exciting to see what happens, and I think a lot of people are waking up and they're having these kinds of awakening experiences. But that seems to be a catalytic year for a lot of people that are awakening and having contact. There's a lot of contact experience. The veil was thinner during that time.
Really? And when you say the veil was thinner, what do you mean by that so people can understand?
So because everything is cyclical, every 10-year cycle, the way that the universe is moving and the way the planetary and the galaxy is kind of rotating around the central core of this multiverse, we come closer to access points that are moving at a faster rate. And when we get to points at a faster rate, that's when these little vortices open around the world. This is when we start having the veil thinning, which means that we're having more interdimensional contact. For example, when there was the big sighting in Phoenix, Arizona, that's when we were going through one of those key moments where the veil completely came quite thin and we were seeing a lot of contact around the world. So if you just follow the patterns of timelines that are occurring within a 10-year, you'll notice in the beginning of those 10 years, sometimes it gets really thick and heavy and the energy just feels like nobody's moving. And towards the end of the cycle, things will begin to move faster. So we're kind of going through that beginning phase right now with 2020. Things are kind of sticky, moving. I mean, at the beginning, 2020 was a pretty tough year for many people. 2021, 2022, now things are starting to move a little bit more. So as we progress in this 10-year cycle, we're going to start seeing things rapidly moving. By the time we get to 2030, we're going to be in a whole different department, whole different vibrational frequency.
Geraldine, I want to ask you, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but society the last 2 years has literally beat the tar out of people with the whole COVID outbreak. And now that we seem to be coming out of that, now we have the situation in Ukraine that is going on. And, and there's a threat out there that potentially nuclear weapons. We've never been closer to a nuclear war than we are right now. People are stressed. The economy is out to shape and out to lunch due to the pandemic and now more war. I mean, we are so tired and we are so anxious and depressed. And like, when do we stop getting punched in the face, Geraldine? Because we are absolutely tired of it. I mean, how many people are you dealing with right now who are going through those same symptoms?
I see two sides of things. There are people, I think actually we're kind of coming to a point where people are waking up to a point where they're aware of where there is distraction and where there is an opportunity for evolution. People are really practicing spiritual work. They're embodying their practice. They're doing the meditation. And when you come back to a neutral point of observer, you begin to realize that you're kind of a co-creator of the collective. And those people that are really coming on board, doing that kind of work and beginning to become creators of their life experience, are not in a state of fear anymore. They're kind of just watching things occur as they happen, and we are choosing carefully our next step, because right now we need to, against all odds of war, of seeing war, we need to figure out a way to come into unity. And so that means that we need to check in with ourselves and see how we're contributing to separation on any way, in any platform, in any part of our life. Where are we contributing to separate? Are we judging certain things? Are we implementing? We need to start understanding that the input of the subconscious mind into the collective field is essential in order to change the future. And although we do see these things coming online, in the next couple of years, things are going to get tougher than easier. But at the end of this cycle, we're coming into major change that will lead an opportunity for major expansion. So right now, everyone needs to become aware and kind of prepare in different ways. Number one, we need to practice what we know to be true and what we know is right, that you're a creator and that you can come into your neutral point. You can meditate. You can find ways to control your emotions, because that's kind of the most important thing. Because if we follow along with all of the things that are going on in mainstream media, we become puppets, and we just are emotional punching bags for all these things that are happening. So we don't want to do that. And that's kind of the best way to maintain society in control and submissive and not able to empower themselves. The other side of that is that we begin to manage our emotions and become observers and become creators, where we're watching what happens and then choosing carefully. Because if you follow the back end of all of these movements and things, we need to start preparing in different ways. We need to start, saving our money, stop going into the consumer cycles of consuming things and amassing material goods, and start kind of changing what we're focusing on. The focus has to be on nutrition, healthy lifestyle, unity within the community, families, internally. These kinds of concepts are essential right now, because they're going to be the foundation to the major changes that are happening in the world. And yes, things are going to change. Everything, financially, politically, how things are, how our lives are structured, things are going to be changing even more.
I was surprised to learn about a week and a half ago here. You know what the average price for a house is in Canada right now if you go across Canada?
How much? Probably a lot.
$836,000.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And when I look at the younger generations, we're killing them. We're killing them. And we're not doing anything to benefit the future of this country or anywhere. I don't know what it's like in the US, but I know up here, I mean, we are killing our youth because we're putting them in so much debt before they even get started. We're handcuffing them, totally handcuffing them.
Yeah, and again, we have to kind of be wise as to how are we going to contribute to that, or there's other ways. And I think that the wonderful thing at the end of all this change is that we're going to start seeing a different society being built. We need to contribute to that. We need to harness our resources that we have internally, because each one of you has a specific gift that you have to share with the world, whether it's a healer, whether you're good at gardening, whether you're good at building things, whether you're good at bringing people together. Whatever it is that you do, you need to find that right now. This is a time for people to understand what they're here to do, because that quality that you have will help support the future, and it'll help build a new society that we need to hopefully work towards, which is more constructive and creative for humanity, and instead of counter creative. Because right now, remember, we're in systems of control that keep us dazed, keep us intoxicated in fear and helplessness, that don't allow us to even think straight. We're completely confused about everything. So we need to get clear, and the best way to get clear is to get empty. That's kind of where we want to focus on.
Well, Lord knows I got a bunch of years to go before I'm officially empty. Let's just put it that way. Put it that way. Geraldine Orozco from the Bay Area Meditation in San Francisco is with us for the Spiritual You. Let's move on to some happier topics here, because eventually we are going to get into aliens tonight. And I know I like aliens. You like a little bit of aliens every now and again with a dash of grays on the side or top of your salad, but for you, do you remember clearly the first time you recalled, not through hypnosis, but the first time you recalled having ET interaction?
Yep. So my conscious experience in 2013 was completely in the physical, completely conscious, completely with these beings directly in front of them. So I could feel them, I sense them, and I can see them in detail. Like I'm seeing you over the screen, but like I'm seeing someone here in the room with me. So yeah, absolutely in detail.
So what was that like for you, where all of a sudden, boom, you got aliens?
Yeah. It's interesting because when it happened, first of all, you have to understand that my room, I have blinds over my room, window, and the way that my house is situated on the street, it curves. So in order for a light that bright to enter my room, it would literally have to be outside my window or across the street with a major light blasting in my room. All four walls were completely covered evenly with light. And this is even with my mini blinds closed. So that's what really, got me thinking, like, what on earth is this light? So when I got out of bed and I looked at my time and it said 3:33 in the morning, I walked over to the window, dropped my phone on the bed, walked to the window, looked outside carefully, and the most important thing was the vibrational frequency that you feel. Your entire body is vibrating as if there is literally an airplane outside or hovering over your house. Everything is just... So by the time I got to the window and looked outside, all I could see was the light blinding. I couldn't see beyond that, and my entire body paralyzed. And as it became paralyzed, I'm being brought through the window, through the glass, through the wall, and here I am in front of this gigantic white light, probably about 50 feet wide, hovering over the sidewalk, over my yard, my front yard, over the side of the street, and the street, and my neighbor's yard. So as I see that light, I see 6 little lines coming out of that light, and the little lines begin to manifest into form as they're coming closer from that light. And these beings 7 feet tall with giant gray, black eyes and very gray skin, they begin to walk towards me, and one of them comes closer to me. And at this point, I'm terrified, and there is this incredible absolute stillness everywhere. There is not even a little bit of wind moving, leaves, nothing. There isn't a single person coming out to look outside for the light. So this was very shocking to me. I couldn't understand how I was the only one getting disturbed by that light. And when this gray lifted his hand, all of the fear that I was feeling in my body and confusion just eliminated from the body, because he telepathically said the word calm. And the voice in my head was not my voice. It was like a very neutral voice. It could have been a unisex voice, and just strange to describe, but it's the best way that I can describe the neutrality of the voice. And when all of the emotions left my body, I'm seeing the being's eyes, just gigantic. It's like a pupil. It looks very organic, very, it's dimensional. It has dimensionals within it, and it's so large. And the giant pupils, you can sense that there's movement behind them, or that it's attentive to you in multiple ways. So you feel like you're super observed from every direction. And the texture of the body is almost like a rhinoceros. It has like very, it's like little, you see the pores, but you see them quite pronounced, and it becomes very soft towards the belly. It feels thicker towards the outside of the body, but soft towards the belly. And it's very skeletal. It's thinner than our bones, but longer, and the skin would mold around the knees. You could see it. It's very bony looking. So the most powerful thing about that exchange is the energy that this being is emitting. You can feel it really powerfully. And as the emotions move, I'm directed towards the light that they came from, and we walk with them on the garage towards the light. And next thing you know, I'm stepping on board to the craft. So this is where then, the story continues. The 5 of the other grays go into the craft. The craft is made of one piece. There is no pieces. It's like one piece of metal, but there are undulations on the floor. There's some strange patterns and lines against the wall of this entering into the hallway, and the hallway curves both ways around, to the right and to the left. And the ship is literally, it's like living, it's organic, it's vibrating. You can feel and you can sense that it doesn't stay still. And even as you're moving, when you're stepping, you can feel it underneath your feet, and I'm not wearing any socks at this time. So when you're walking in, immediately the 5 grays move forward and bend into the light, turn around, and all of a sudden the gray next to me changes everything around me holographically, and everything turns into this green grass and blue sky, and you can tell it's very fake. So anyway, this is the beginning. I mean, I don't know how much more you want me to share about it, but
we got 4 minutes.
yeah. Okay, so essentially, when they bring me into the craft and they're showing me this through the hologram, I begin to see these giant glass obtuse buildings. Of course, this is a hologram, so as we're walking towards these glass buildings, I walk inside, and it's very minimalistic. On the right side, there's a glass table made out of one piece. On the right side, there's like a sunken living room type space, and to the back, there's this yard that has a Japanese maple tree and some little Japanese plants. It just has that strange minimalistic feel to it, but not really of this earth, just different. And when I turn around, I'm seeing two grays and my aunt in her pajama with her hair completely unconscious, with her eyes open, walking or gliding. Literally, I'm not even sure that her feet were moving, but she was gliding in front of me. And when I tried to call out her name, or I tried to catch the attention and scream, I can't. I became very confused. And immediately they removed this hologram away. And I guess I was in the actual room that I was supposed to be in, which I believe that they created that hologram maybe to not show how I got to the room I was in. I'm not sure what the purpose of that hologram really was, other than to conceal the spaces that we were walking through. And when they removed that, I'm in some kind of room that maybe could be a navigation room. On the right side, there's this oval console with planets in a blue hologram, and you can literally see through the craft. You can see the sky. You can see stars beyond the craft. So it's moving. It's vibrating. And in front of me are three little grays, shorter than these 7-foot ones, and they have a big giant blue prism in front of them. And in the prism, there's 8 layers in which they begin to unfold this massive amount of information about many things. My alternate aspects of myself, Pleiadian aspects, alien language, my hybrid children, the the Matrix, and they begin to show me all of that.
Very interesting. Very interesting. At any point, did you have any fear going through this process? I mean, the white light is one thing, okay? And it's not the go to the light type of white light. It's they put you in a white light. But the whole fact that you were now being introduced and indoctrinated into this culture of extraterrestrial life, I mean, what was going through your system and your mind at that point?
So the interesting thing is that within that year of 2013, I had been meditating every day, literally up to 9 hours. I was completely immersed in trying to understand what truth was, quote unquote truth. What is that? What does that even mean? And what that led me to do naturally myself, without looking outside or learning from anyone else, in my own meditation, I began to deprogram belief systems. And it took me first through my own emotions, then through my family, then my ancestral lineage. Then it took me all the way back through history, all the way back to the origin of life in Mesopotamia. I began to kind of unpack and follow the roots of our societal thinking and constructs. And I think it was at that point that I was clearing all of that up that my next question was, what's beyond that? And I think that's what led up vibrationally, both vibrationally and I guess psychologically and mentally, prepared me for the next possibility of what existence is. And that's when I had the experience. And I hear this from a lot of contactees. They do some of this healing work, and they're vibrationally aligned with interdimensionality. It opens you up to that contact.
Geraldine, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We are going to go to break here at the bottom of the hour. Geraldine Orozco's The Spiritual You. We're going to continue with ET Talk here. We'll take your questions in hour number 2 for Geraldine. BayAreaMeditation.com, HybridMother.com, GeraldineOrozco.com, SpaceOutRadio.com. We return after this. It always makes me laugh when I hear your furnace.
Oh gosh. You know, I
I-
tried to silence this background, but I guess it's not enough. I'm so sorry. But it's
oh
very
my god!
cold here.
What's cold? Is it 47 degrees?
Here we go. It probably is. Hold on. Let me check what it says. Let's see. Come on, weather. What is the weather here? Okay, it's 55. It's really cold
Oh
though.
my god, that is shorts weather. Shorts weather.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
at 3 degrees Celsius, 38 degrees Fahrenheit.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I am like in heaven right now.
No.
No more jackets. No more jackets. It's hoodie season now. I made it through jacket season.
What about your family? Are they as warm and comfortable right now as you? No.
It is hoodie season.
Oh my God. That's
Mhm.
amazing. That's amazing.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful right now. The snow is melting. I'm starting to see pavement again. Haven't seen pavement in a long time. Yeah.
That's great. I'm
My
so glad.
grass.
So, is it not snowing as it was last year then?
No, the snow came early this year. We're
Okay.
supposed to get a flurry of snow. When are we? Hold on. Thursday.
Uh-huh.
Thursday.
Okay.
And that'll be see, even the lows are warm now. -7, -5, -3. So in your temperature, that would be like 27, 26, 23, 19. That's warm.
Yeah.
We can handle that. That's easy.
Oh my gosh. That's easy. Look
Oh
at
yeah.
that. A experiencer says it's 60 here in LA. See, that's better. I could do 60. 60 is good.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Fabster says nudie season for Dave, bad time for the wildlife. You got that right, Fabster. You got that right. Stu Gerson says Geraldine looks amazing tonight.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you so
we should
much.
all be holding up our 10 out of 10 cards tonight. We really should. You know, I wanted to bring up the white light thing because that's what happened to me
Mhm.
right before, like 3 weeks before the UFO landing, and then 5 days later meeting Samantha Mowat and seeing the alien. Was I got put in that white light room. Couldn't see the floor, couldn't see the ceiling, couldn't see the walls.
Wow.
And but the voice that I heard was much more masculine.
Okay. Mhm. Mhm.
If
What
that
kind of
makes
beings did you get in touch with? Were they greys too?
All I know is that whatever it was standing behind me
Mhm.
at a distance, and it was talking to me, but I never ever saw it.
Mhm.
Never saw it.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. It'd be interesting to see what kind of beings. And what about other experiences? Did you see any other? Well, that was the biggest one, right?
I've seen 4 different types of grays,
Okay.
and the one we think it was an Andromedan in the forest. That was with Samantha Mowat.
Okay. Wow.
And I've seen when I got abducted for the first time that I know of, there was shimmering all around. I don't know what there was shimmering down my hallway, like crystal type of shimmering.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, yeah.
Don't know what that was.
Wow, that's beautiful. You know, I did see that crystal in the craft. I feel like the craft is made out of that kind of crystalline energy of some kind. That's really interesting. Did you see it like floating? Is it like
it was like in my hallway. It's in my hallway.
Wow, that's interesting.
But the rest of it, I don't know.
I would love to see what
I want
else.
you to take me back.
I know, I really want to, but it's totally up to you.
You can in San Francisco.
Okay.
You could totally do that in San Francisco.
Let's do that.
Yeah, I will totally make that happen.
All right.
You can knock me out.
Okay.
Knock me out, make it happen. Hi, Chris Moe in Austria. How are you, buddy?
Austria.
Yep. But we got about 20 seconds. I want to say a big thank you to Tim and Cat Chaser for the awesome super chats. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. Hello, One Love. Welcome to the channel. And so super chat is open. And don't forget, we're here 7 days a week for you. Here we go, the second half hour. Second half hour of Spaced Out Radio is now underway. Good to have you with us tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Appreciate each and every one of you tuning us on in. Want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, as well as TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. Geraldine Orozco's The Spiritual You continues right now on the mighty SOR. She joins us near the beginning of each month to talk about all the things that could make us better. She will align our Zen, Chi, and chakras at the same time without us even noticing. GeraldineOrozco.com is her website. Geraldine, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Let's get into ET contact and hybrids. And this is a topic we haven't talked about in a long time. But for you, you work closely with men and women who have had encounters where they believe that they have provided either eggs or sperm in order to create alien hybrid children. For a lot of people, this sounds very science fiction. It does not sound real. Yet for those who are experiencing it, it is a very, very painful, sometimes torturous event. Others are more than happy to help on out. I mean, it's kind of a strange program. You know, before you learned about that this was happening to you, how did you come across learning about this program?
Before it happened to me, how I discovered this was literally by meeting my children on board craft in that experience that we were discussing. And that was kind of where my reality completely shattered. And you can imagine the jump that you have to take in your reality from, think of everyday life, just you're thinking about the terrestrial plane, you're just figuring out the terrestrial plane, and then all of a sudden, you're taking on board a craft and you're introduced these children, which are clearly yours. You have this incredible exchange with them, and, they say, these are your children. And, I think at that moment, I was trying to desperately place how I could have forgotten that I had these children. I was in my mind, I just remember myself in that moment going back to 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 7 years, just like, how did I forget that this happened? Is that even humanly possible? And so you come into this moment of your entire reality just shattering. And the next thought was, okay, I have these children. Let me stop thinking about how I got them or what happened. I need to be responsible for these children. All of a sudden, the maternal instinct kind of takes over. And I was in that moment thinking about my earth life, and I was thinking, I'm ready to let go of all of that and just come here and take care of my children. That's the thought that came to me. And while all of this is happening and I'm thinking all of these, these children are looking at me. They can see absolutely through me. They can see everything about me. They know everything about me. And I feel completely transparent in front of them, and they know what's supposed to happen. They know more, of course, than I do. So they were prepared probably for some strange reaction from me. And they know that this is kind of like the process of the hybridization, it seems. It seems like they're already told that. But for me, once I finished that thought, I wonder who I need to talk to in the US or, in our reality on Earth to figure out how do we handle situations with extraterrestrials. That was my thought. And at that point, when they removed the children from me, I became really, really sad. I thought, how is it possible that I'm going to depart from these children? And they asked me, why are you sad? And as a result of this, they began to show me the matrix. And essentially, they began to show me that every particle is moving. We are fields of energy, and that form isn't really finite. Like, it's not about form, it's about a field of consciousness, and that I'm consciousness, their consciousness, my family, everything is. So at that point, it brought me this incredible peace. And even though I didn't understand what was happening, I felt this powerful feeling of connectedness to everything, and at the same time disconnected from everything, just sovereign in my own physical body. And then I was brought back. So as a result of that, of course, activated my psychic abilities. And that was another 3 months of having to figure out how to integrate that. But alongside to that, I began to try to find information online, and I didn't know what words to use. I looked up alien children, I looked up ETs, ET contact, abduction, spacecrafts, lights. I looked up all of this, but I wasn't finding enough information. I thankfully found Bridget Nielsen's website. She has the ET children community. I found her website, and I saw the other women that were having contact, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. These other women are having contact. These are people from all walks of life that are having contact. And I also found Opus, which I am now on the director's board of Opus, which is for paranormal research. And Opus provides this incredible support group and also resources for contactees. So I submitted a UFO sighting and a contact experience that day, that very next morning, like when I returned. And it was the only thing I can find. But there wasn't answers. I wasn't understanding what the hybrid program was. I wasn't understanding, how I was involved, how it happened. None of that. None of that came until 2017, when I began to really go back into my purification process, and I began to channel, and then I understood what was happening on these higher levels, because I was able to go with all my organic research that I did myself in my own meditation. I was able to go beyond that. And that's when I understood what this hybridization program is about. And I decided to dedicate myself to this and to work with women and men and anyone else that's having interdimensional contact, essentially. That's how it started.
So as you learned that you were a part of this program, and you were learning that many others are as well, I mean, how did you control your own emotions, knowing that you were basically, a caretaker for a child that's kind of yours, but never was?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was emotional in that split moment when they began to remove the children, because I know that this happens so quickly, but the maternal instinct came on so strong and so powerful that I understood what it meant to be a mother. I'm not a mother in this life, but I understood that it's like you want to give your entire life for the child. It's like you're willing to undergo whatever change necessary in order to be there and to support this living being. And that's exactly what I felt in that moment. So, my thinking in that moment was immediate attachment and protection. But right when they were taking them away, the children were not emotional at all. They knew that was going to happen. I guess they were already primed to this whole scenario, which is very typical of the hybridization program. So that was initially confusing. And the next day, during the years before I understood what was happening, I did have feelings of missing them and wondering how they are. And I had continued contact in those years, still without not clearly understanding the depth of this program, And even though in the events of contact that I had, I saw more each time. I found myself looking at technology. I understood the process. I understood how they were doing, how they were removing, how the insemination occurs, even though I wasn't partnered during those times. And then when I was partnered, but not sexually active, still becoming pregnant. All of these anomalies, and it didn't happen all the time. It just happened specific moments in my life. I started to understand the times that I became pregnant, that the doctor said that it was a blighted ovum or it was stress or anxiety. I understood now what happened. So the times that I became pregnant, I also became sick. I had I ended up at the hospital, fainting spells within 3-week period. I lost 22 pounds in 1 week. And the doctor said I had a foreign amoeba. He thought I left the country. I told him no. And next thing you know, I have a miscarriage. And then everything's gone. Everything's back to normal. The day before that, my family was visiting, thinking that I was going to die in 3 months if we didn't get that amoeba or whatever foreign bug it was taken care of. And of course, I'm allergic to antibiotics and other medications. I'm super sensitive. So there was that problem that we were dealing with too. And then after the miscarriage, from one day to the next, gone. Right? But at that moment, you're not linking those things. But when I started to review my life experiences, everything from the age of 5, the brilliant white light that entered my room at the age of 5, and I had missing time, now I started to understand, and so an entire dimension of your life opens up to you, and you begin to understand all these anomalous experiences. So the emotions were, at first pretty powerful for that connection. But then as I began to piece together the puzzle little by little on my own, that's when it started to kind of get more clear,
Did you ever at a time during your emotional strife with this, cling to other people who were going through this at the same time, who maybe had more experience? I think like Amisha Johnson or, somebody of that level.
Yeah, you know what? It wasn't until I met Lorian from the MUFON here in San Francisco, Marin MUFON, that I had anyone to kind of find support in. And, talking to MUFON about the experience was kind of the first person outside of my 2 parents that I told about my partner, about my experience. And that's when it kind of alleviated and opened up, made me feel like I wasn't insane. I wasn't crazy, for the experience. And it was there where I found a friend. And then I met Misha after that. And Misha became such a warm friend. And oh my God, she was just amazing. And I came into this UFO community. So they were definitely a strong support system. Although I will say that at the moment, right when I met Lorian from the MUFON, I just had done my hypnotherapies. So I feel like I had a lot of my questions answered. And that allowed me to have a strong foundation to continue further the research by then meeting other contactees, connecting them, and confirming all this information that I had found in myself and experienced. And that really helped take the experience to a whole different level because, there's certain little delicate things and details from contact that you're not sure if you should even mention them until you begin to go to support groups and then you hear other people talk about them. Everything from the dots on my arm that were left behind from the experience. I didn't know that was something that so many people were experiencing. From the miscarriages, from the cysts in the body, for example, or problems with your menstruation cycle. I mean, everything was exactly as these other women were experiencing it, and I've never researched or read in depth about these things before. So it was just mind-blowing, it was mind-blowing. And then when you talk about ETs and what you're seeing, it's incredible confirmation. So it was very healing, and it was confirming, and it was just really brought me into a place of where I could hold support for others eventually.
Why did you feel that you needed to take a leadership role in these programs to help others?
The decision to make that really was something that is, in a sense, divinely guided in such a powerful way that there's no earth thing that could ever, manufacture this understanding of what you're supposed to be doing. I mean, from the very beginning of meeting Lorian, how I met Lorian, for example, from MUFON, I had a dream about her. This is how, how I actually got in contact with her. And I called her. I knew that she was the director of the MUFON, but I had a dream. And from there, we ended up bringing her into the hotel that I was working at during that time, and she had her conference there. So that was the beginning. Then after that, I had this incredible experience where I surrendered after my hypnotherapy sessions. By the way, the hypnotherapist that I was working with, it's impossible to get a session with her. You have to wait half a year sometimes to get a session. I had a session within a week. Okay. And then the next session within another week. So those kinds of synchronicities just opened up. And I think that the synchronicities started to happen the moment I surrendered. And I said, universe, use me as you need. I surrender. I'm not afraid of truth. I'm not afraid of the information. Let me find truth and let me be of service in the best way possible. And the very next day after saying that, I was walking on the creek here, and a hawk, a beautiful hawk, comes down in front of my path and opens the wings and like bends down in front of me. And it was so incredible because right after that, that's when I had the regressions. Everything started moving, and I almost didn't even have to think about it because all the answers and the questions that I had were being answered through my own work, through my connection. I got invited to speak at these conferences. Shortly, I got asked to be a part of that documentary. So it's not really something that I chose necessarily. It's kind of like with the universe, it was kind of meant to be at that point, and then everything just kind of fell into place. I never have like illusions of fame or trying to share this or becoming popular or known. It was more about just being of service and finding truth, really. That's really what it was about.
Yeah, and that's the hard one, is trying to find out the truth. But I think even more than finding out the truth is being able to accept the truth as this is who you are and this is what you're about. What kind of fight is that emotionally?
Oh, that is the hardest challenge for any of the seekers, all seekers that are here. I mean, that is really the hardest part, is accepting. And it requires powerful self-love. I mean, you need to get real clear about a lot of things. You need to understand who you are, what you are, how you work, the mechanics of yourself in this hologram of co-creation, so that you can begin to manifest what is necessary to co-create the things that you need to do here. And what it taught me more than anything is that each one of us have a very specific vibrational frequency that plays a role in the bigger picture. And when we don't do that, we're literally getting ill, we're having problems, we have even our contact changes. And I experienced that too. I experienced really, really dark things, when I went down this path. And there were times when I questioned, do I want to continue doing this? Many times. And, but the answer was always, surrender. And then when you get into surrender, you have to trust. And when you trust, then you realize, okay, that's when the universe actually will support you. And it does. And it does require you to have a lot of courage, because ultimately there is nothing outside that will provide you that support, that affirmation, acknowledgement, acceptance. Nothing outside will. It really has to come from us. And so in order to do that, if it wasn't for my years of spiritual foundation, I think that I would have been in a really delicate place, especially when I started to look at my draconian experience and then military experiences that happened to me. I mean, those things did rock my world for a moment, because even though you hear other people, you don't really necessarily believe it until it happens to you, and it begins to affect your life in certain ways. And then that was another, yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, please.
No. I'm just saying that was another lesson of trust again. It's just basically you're learning to trust over and over again yourself. Go ahead.
How did you learn to accept yourself over this?
Yeah.
I mean, there's the trust, there's the belief, there's the understanding, but you have to learn how to trust yourself over this and like yourself after going through something like this.
Yeah. And I've gone the fact of the matter is that I've gone through several existential crises because the information that I was even in the hypnotherapies, I would even question, like, did I just make all of that up right now? Did I just totally make all of that up? And I had to sit with myself and listen to the information. But when you begin to understand how pure that information is and how it comes from a place that you're not reading it, you're not watching films about it, there is a consciousness, there is an intelligence to us that transcends our analytical mind. And for me, this was the experience of that infinite consciousness in life, in my flesh. And I think that every time I think back to that, that's when I start to feel, okay, I can surrender, because you begin to experience synchronicities, you begin to experience the magic, the true magic of this physical experience. You kind of begin to enter into this Jedi type scenario where you understand what you are able to control and manage. And as I just tested things, I tested my trust by following my intuition. I would always get it right after the intuition. And even though I experienced difficult things, looking back at those difficult things, I understand why I experienced them. It's because I needed to. If I didn't experience that, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't even be able to support others that have those difficult experiences. And I think because I decided that I wanted to find truth, I think that, that it's a difficult path, and you have to be able to experience the range of everything. You have to. This is part of life. So how did I like myself after that? I think that whenever I trusted my intuition, it built trust little by little. From the moment I wake up in the morning to the moment I go to sleep, it's little acts of authenticity, of congruency with yourself, and don't do things that are hating yourself, because sometimes we lie to hide who we really are, and then we hate ourselves for that. And I realized myself, I've done that other times in the past, and it caused so much suffering, So in this phase of my life, I decided to be completely honest with whatever, even if it was ugly. You just be honest. And I started to like myself through that practice.
We have 2 minutes to go before we go to break at the top of the hour. Geraldine Orozco is our guest. Geraldine, you're not a mother on this side. Do you feel like a mother to those who are a part of this program?
No, not really. I consider myself, and the way I think of us is that we're everything. We're both. We're masculine, female, and we're here really to unite. We have to transcend that. So I don't think of any mother role of any kind, even though my website is Hybrid Mother. It's more about holding space for people to understand truth beyond all of those constricting, compartmentalized ways of looking at things. We want to go beyond that, and that's kind of what we're trying to do, hopefully.
I can see that. But you don't feel any connection to the hybrids children up there. You don't feel like a mom to them?
That's a great question. No, not exactly. Not from the way that we think of a mother feeling connected to the child. And that really takes us to a whole different aspect, which goes deeper into the reason for the hybridization program, which I've kind of processed and reviewed in several different ways. And I'd love to share that with you, because it's a longer topic we can talk about when we come back. But the hybrids are fragments of myself. And the hybrids are meant to support a matrix multiverse. And essentially my job with them are done, and we are connected through the genetic code that binds all things. And therefore there's no need to feel sorrow or missing them. They exist as they need to exist in their space, and I exist in mine. So that this is kind of how I feel about it.
Wow. Geraldine Orozco blowing our minds tonight on the spiritual you can find many of her websites, hybridmother.com, bayareameditation.com, geraldineorozco.com. 1 hour down. We got her for another hour here on Spaced Out Radio tonight. the lovely Geraldine Orozco and the Spiritual You continues on Spaced Out Radio right after this. And we're clear.
Awesome. I'm going to go grab some tea and I'll be right back.
Go, girl. I'm going to hit the loo. I'll be right back, too.
All right.
Chat room, be nice. Play nice. Be right back. Okay, I am back. Sorry about that, people. TMI, how you doing? It's the ROM Entertainment. Welcome. And yeah, Fabster is lurking somewhere. We don't know where he is, but he's lurking. Anybody picking up the Russian bots tonight? I've cleared like 5 of them already. Jim, how are you, buddy? Good to see you. It's always nice to have a good show tonight. We got a great crowd tonight. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate you. And all the new faces that are coming on in. Oh, they're from your Discord. Very cool. Welcome to everyone who's been invited in by 416 Bitcoin. We like our fellow Canadian here. GG Hartwell, what's happening? Good to see you. Oh, did I miss the Hagglers? Who are the Hagglers? Where did they come in? What did I miss? I don't think I missed any of the Hagglers, did I? All right, we got like 10 seconds. Geraldine, I think you're ready. Thank you to Thomas, Tim, and Cat Chaser for the super chats. Here we go, everyone.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Here we go with hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Join us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Deflocculate. Deflocculate is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have the plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot, reading Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, as well as TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with Geraldine Orozco's The Spiritual You, as we bring in Geraldine once a month near the beginning to talk about all things strange, weird, awesome, and just absolutely amazing. Her website, GeraldineOrozco.com. As we bring Geraldine back, thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you so much. Once again, I'm excited to be here.
It's always a pleasure to have you here as well. Before the break, we were getting into something a little bit serious regarding being a hybrid mother and what's that like? Do you miss your children? I know you wanted to continue with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we were just talking really briefly about, the role that a hybrid mother plays in the creation of these hybrids. So first, I just want to remind you, we talk very lightly about these topics, but really they are very interesting because I think that the hybrid program is potentially a key to understanding the role that we play actually in the bigger picture of this entire multiverse. If you were to think of this multiverse like a living organism, it's as if every single human is a cell that participates in the co-creation of what we're experiencing. And if you kind of think of things that way, that means that in order to maintain the balance and the vitality and well-being of this being that we're participating in, there's some kind of self-organized intelligence to that. And just the way our physical bodies, every cell of the body intelligently knows what to do to maintain its well-being, even when there's an illness, it knows how to restore, regenerate. And essentially, we have to work kind of like a whole or holistic system in order to maintain the balance of this body. So I perceive this multiverse that we're participating in very much like that, as if our human body was like this whole organism. Humans are little cells on this planet Earth that we are participating in something. When you go into these hybridization crafts, you're going to see thousands and thousands of rows of incubating fetuses. Millions, because that's just one craft, and they're kind of compartmentalized in different kinds of agendas, depending on whether it's a low agenda, supposedly, or a high agenda. They create these hybrids. Whether they're separate from one another, I don't know, but I know that the way that they process this hybridization program is different. So let's say a low vibration, what we call low, what reason why I call it low is because the organisms that are being produced are either meant to be self-destructive or to be destroyed, or they are interdimensional entity-like beings that function in a matter that's more parasitic. The other spectrum of that is really high vibration organisms. So children that are superly high vibration. And all of these ranges are genetically modified to produce that. So from the higher end, they're genetically modified with a cocktail of DNA in order to create what DNA is kind of blueprint code. And every single strand of DNA that comes from a new donor provides a vortex and an entryway into an entire species of vibrational frequency and information. So if you combine all of that, the new organism that's created, the new hybrid, basically becomes a powerhouse with the ability to access all of these lineages of information. Essentially, humans are the same thing, because what I discovered actually is that the hybridization program is not something external to the human race. In fact, the human race is a product of hybridization. And if we follow the trail of evolution back to its origin to Mesopotamia, in fact, we are a product of genetic modification. We simply need to look at the origins of bloodlines, specific families, how they were preserved through history. And how do you preserve a history? How do you preserve a bloodline is through incest. Okay, and so that was something that was heavily, heavily practiced in ancient cultures for centuries. What happens when incest occurs in families is that some traits become strengthened and other traits become weakened. Usually the physicality of the organism will destruct, but the genetic information will be very strong, because our bodies is only 2.53% is protein writing DNA. Keep that in mind. The rest of the DNA is writing other systems. So the network that we have, it's very much a holographic body. In the holographic body, we have the multidimensional body up to the 13 layers that are interacting with other dimensional planes. And it's in those dimensional planes that we have access to our genetic data that is inherited from these hybrid DNA. Okay, so we are essentially a cocktail of DNA. And the reason why a lot of children are born with access to their memories in past lives, memories on board craft, memories of being on other planets, other species, is because with this evolutionary process, it's becoming expressed. It's expressing itself in the physical plane now. So every single hybrid that is born is genetically modified to match the new vibrational frequency of this evolutionary process that we are undergoing collectively. So let's bring it back to your question, because this is kind of the long answer of the question. If that's the case, then, should we want to connect with the hybrids? Should we want to, essentially, we play a role in participating, sustaining a matrix multiverse through the hybridization program. We are creating hybrids that are going to live and populate other planets, other systems, and our DNA allows access to all of our historic information, and all of that experience that we've had as a collective humanity helps populate other civilizations on other planets, and so on and so forth. So the way that I look at it, I can have millions of children potentially from my genetic information, just the way I have a lot of ancestors here on Earth and relatives that I don't even know. I'm related. Me and you, Dave, we have a relative in common just 3,000 years ago. Okay, so if you think about that, essentially we come from one melting pot of data. And so with that thinking, I don't feel that there is any reason to have this kind of sentiment. Each organism is created for a specific purpose, and we are here to do something in this collective. So that's kind of how I look at it.
I want to get to a question here from Obi, who is asking, Geraldine, can you elaborate a little on the parasitic organisms?
Yep, absolutely. So what does it mean to be parasitic? First of all, I just want you to go back, for those of you that are familiar with the story of the Book of Enoch, and you're familiar with the concept of the conception of life, even in this universe, as we call this galaxy and this Earth. Through history, through the Anunnaki history, through all of these histories to the origin, we find that it's almost as if an aspect of infinite source became separate in order to experience itself as an individual. Okay, so if you remember that story, that has become kind of like the fractal of information of how all living beings and expressions of life force mimic that behavior. We become separate. We are separate from source as an individual human body. And so what that allows us to do is to potentially two things: create and also experience infinite possibilities. When we separate from source, we become fragmented, and we are only one of the many selves that we have. Our hybrids are ourselves. Our ET aspects are ourselves. Our brothers and sisters here on Earth are aspects of ourselves. So in other words, we are really one. But what becomes parasitic is when that one fractal forgets that it's a part of something bigger. And therefore it requires from something external to feed it, to keep it alive, right? And so what happens, and this happens micro, macro, we experience it internally when we, let's say, doubt ourselves or hate ourselves. We want to look outside for validation. We want to look outside for all of these things. Psychologically, this is what we do. We, in a sense, become parasitic, and we're becoming parasitic psychologically and interrelationally and also energetically. Okay, so this is an example of parasitic behavior. So let's take it to the energetic level in these kinds of ET expressions. In that same way, these organisms are designed to be parasitic. Essentially, they become like entities, what we know as entities, and they feed off something else. They feed off our life force, and they have the ability of dwelling in that and feeding with our unconscious awareness. Again, even these parasitic aspects are aspects of ourselves. Okay, so it's as if we have to experience the whole range of everything. We need to experience life in its fullest capacity and life in its lowest, which again is that parasitic. So these hybrids that are being created to become parasites essentially, they are inserted in timelines, and oftentimes I find that they're interdimensional. And because they're encoded with our specific genetic information, they are inserted usually within the ancestral lineage of the donor that helped co-create that organism. Okay, it's like a cousin. It's like a really bad cousin, essentially. It is inserted into our energetic field, and we are interacting with that. We help co-create that unconsciously, just the way we help co-create any other counteractive experience.
I want to ask you in regards to the political side of this, okay? Because there are many, whether they are in the Scientific Coalition for UAP Studies or people above that, we hear the government talking about UFOs, UAP, and slowly but surely the word extraterrestrial has come into play here, Geraldine, over the last couple of months. My question to you regarding this is they have always kind of uh, negatively portrayed people who are experiencers, people who have gone through what you have gone through, as well as many others. How do you, I don't want to use the word fire back because I don't think that's the right term, but how do you combat that argument from people who are pushing for the disclosure movement on a scientific and governmental level, but are saying what you guys do or what we do in pushing the woo side or the hybrid side or whatever side it is, that we are just manipulating people in this field?
Hmm. So it's funny because a lot of that kind of controlled disclosure that the government provides and that some of these very specific organizations provide is actually a lot more distracting because it's maintaining any human focused on only lights in the sky or only specific aspects of it without having the conversation about the interdimensional, life forms that are essentially navigating these crafts and so on and so forth. Because the moment we go in that direction, then we have to ask some real serious questions. And that leads into the direction of the destruction of systems that are created, for centuries in our reality. So I think that it's baby steps in that direction. And essentially how I respond to it is I simply don't even respond to it because I think what's more important is for us to ignore that kind of, whatever, kind of judgments or whatever they're doing on their end, however they're categorizing these things occurring. And we really need to focus and unite. It's about unity. Right now, it's about unity. And we need to unite on so many different aspects right now. Whatever topic, pick a topic, we need to talk about unity somehow. Because especially in the UFO community, I think it's completely silly and insane that we're separate, that we have these fighting forces against each other. I mean, are we kidding? We're talking about such a delicate topic, but at the same time, so important that if more people would even question it, I mean, we could really advance quicker in our society, okay? But the thing is that actually a lot of people already know about UFOs. They know about contact. They know already. So it's just a matter of time. Unfortunately, we're programmed to only receive that once we get permission from the ones that we think are official to be able to acknowledge that, then we can do it. We have to be able to break that program. And we have to create our own unity and just forget about any judgments and push forward. The way I respond to that is continuing to talk, continuing to share, continuing to do the work, and holding space for other contactees to come out and talk and share and not be in the shadows, because we're dealing with a lot of different new aspects of psychological problems right now, and we're going to be dealing with a lot more, especially after the pandemic. And we need to start serving and holding space for people to feel comfortable, okay? It was somewhat a huge distraction what we've experienced, because now people are even afraid to connect with one another. We need to quickly move past that as fast as possible. And we need to do the internal work and then move the next step into this next aspect of interdimensionality, because that's the key to liberation of human and the ability for it to be sovereign and yet connected to the whole. It's very important for, in other words, creating a community.
Do you see a time where both of these sides are going to come together or have to come together in a respectable manner, where the experiencer can team up with the scientific theologian side of the phenomena? Because in the end, we're not discussing UFOs, we're not discussing ETs, we're discussing the phenomena overall.
Correct, correct. And that's actually where we meet in the topic of consciousness, which is hopefully where all of this is headed, because that's the link to uniting all these things. And yes, the scientific community is afraid to go in the direction of consciousness because there's so much unknowns yet, and there's so many things that are hard to prove according to their scientific processes, But how we're evolving here collectively, we have to try to have the conversations of consciousness. And essentially, what I'm hoping is that people will understand that it's a job that's done from the inside out. The more we explore internally, the more we can help understand and provide support for this topic. So I do see it coming. I think that we are there. I think that there's a lot of people in the scientific community that are going in that direction, especially when we're having conversations about quantum computing and the future of everything, future of money, future of, energy, future of food production. All of these things are going towards a different direction where it's more into a network, virtual reality even, and so we have to be mindful of that, and it's going in that direction.
The funny part about it is, on one end, you got the whole government and scientific side denying all of this, yet they admit to looking through all this stuff at places like Skinwalker Ranch or remote viewing or all of these projects they've been looking into for years. So, I mean, it's like the pot calling the kettle black.
Yeah,
I mean, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth at the same time.
Yeah, right. But we are the ones that have to see through that, right? And then we just we have to change what we're focusing on. So the focus doesn't have to be on that. The focus has to be on doing our own research. I think that's the best way, is to do your own research, have your own experiences. You go do a night watch, you go to these conferences, you go figure out for yourself your own, get hypnotherapy, whatever it is that you need to do to understand yourself in your reality. That's what it comes down to.
Is that a valuable asset to moving everything forward?
Essential is our internal work, because from my perspective, it's so clear, right? Because to me, I understand that everything that we're creating comes from the internal first. And even these concepts of separation that we're dealing with in the collective right now is a reflection of everything that we're dealing internally that is separate. So once we start doing that work, we begin to see externally those changes, so these are the laws of creation that we have the ability to learn to manage in the three-dimensional plane and then move beyond that. And that's where we're going. People are psychic, they're tuning into their psychic ability. They're questioning. They're like, I think I'm psychic. I think I'm empathic. The next step is psychic. The next step, we're going to start having telepathy. These are all things that we can train ourselves to do. And it's essential for the future, because technology is headed in that direction as well. Remember that technology mimics the organic, and so all of these incredible functions that we have in our physical body, this is what scientists and designers are looking at to find new ways of expanding. We're using DNA as in quantum computers in order to hold massive amounts of information. So if you see that the truth is in nature, the truth is in you.
We just got to find it to keep it, as we got about 35 seconds.
Yeah. Right.
How do we do that?
So how do we find what truth, or
our own truth?
Our own truth, yeah.
Our own love of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think when we understand, how we choose things that are good for us is by loving ourselves, by becoming aware of ourselves on the deepest level. We begin to choose things that are more constructive for us. We're eating better food. We're not watching TV anymore. We're pulling away from social media, and that allows us to have some silence. And that silence helps us come into a state of neutrality where our emotions are no longer running the show. And that way we can really begin to observe what's happening. Only the observer can change experiences.
We have Geraldine Orozco for another 30 minutes here on Spaced Out Radio for the Spiritual You, which happens near the beginning of each month with the lovely Geraldine Orozco. Her website, GeraldineOrozco.com. We continue with Spaced Out Radio right after this. Great show so far.
Lots of fun. Love it. I'm going to grab...
Yeah, not bad for being unscripted. You go. We'll see.
Just grab some water. I'll be right back.
Very cool. Geraldine Orozco, everyone. Geraldine Orozco. Geraldine frickin' Orozco. There we go. Geraldine Orozco. It's the way we roll. It's the way we roll. The way we roll. Oh, Mark, what did I do that made you think of me? Hope it wasn't one of them Divinals songs. I don't want anybody else when I think about you. You know. Touchdown, Alabama. Let's go for 2. Welcome back. VPXM, how you doing, buddy? Boom, Waylon. Geraldine is like a sister to me, man. Canada released a bunch of notes. Thank you to Daniel Otis for getting those out. Carbine's right. What's happening? There we go. We're moving forward. You're back already.
Back. Yes.
James Weston, how you doing? And Eva says, Geraldine is amazing. No words are even worthy.
Oh, thank you very much, Eve. Much love to you.
Geraldine's vibration truly high.
Thanks, CA. Yours is too. Everyone in this chat is just so great. Love your comments.
Oh, they love you. They love you. Geraldine, by the way, will be at our Vegas party April 22nd and 24th in Las Vegas at the Golden Nugget. Yep. She's bringing 28 pairs of shoes for literally, one or 2 nights there. She doesn't know what she's going to wear. Just kidding.
Dave, I'm becoming a minimalist.
You have not shed down your shoe collection.
I have.
Guaranteed.
Big time.
I doubt this. I doubt.
No, I promise you. I think I'm down to probably 12 pairs or something like that. That's pretty good.
Oh my goodness. I got more shoes than you now.
What?
I think I got more shoes than you now.
Exactly. See? But now we're going to a minimalist lifestyle.
Yeah. You know what my addiction is?
What?
Watches.
Oh, are you a watch? Oh my gosh.
I have been my entire life, but lately I've been on a real watch kick.
Wow. So what's the watch of the times now?
Right now I'm wearing a Bulova
Oh,
But
nice.
normally I love diesel watches because they got the big face on them.
Beautiful. Yeah, I wear Bulova too.
Yeah. The gorgeous Pinzer Flactum. Luscious Jewels, how are you? Yeah. So I'm on a watch kick right now. That's what it
Nice.
comes to.
Yeah, my brother, he loves watches too. He was just talking to me about some kind of Soviet watches that are mechanical. He's into mechanical watches.
I got one. I got a couple new ones this year.
Oh, that's nice.
I just got to get a nice box to put them in. I got to get a nice box to put them in. Once I have that, then I'll be happy. We got like 3 seconds. Hold on.
Okay.
We pass the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Very much appreciate you taking the time to join us. Want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot. Read Shirky Poo's Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, as well as TikTok on Spaced Out Radio. All right, let's go here. Right back to Geraldine Orozco and the Spiritual You. Geraldine joins us at the beginning of each month to take us down a road of excellence and spirituality. Her website is spacedoutradio.com. No, that's mine. GeraldineOrozco.com is her website. Geraldine, welcome back.
Hey, thank you. Definitely visit Spaced Out Radio too.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the shameless plug there. I appreciate that. All right, Geraldine, we've kind of been talking about the hybridization portion of everything. Namely, we hear of a lot of women who have gone through this. Why have we heard from so few men who have gone through this program?
In my experience, what I've noticed with men, first of all, sometimes men have a hard time coming into a place of vulnerability, and this experience is hard enough. And the side effects are oftentimes more psychological for them than they are necessarily physical and as impactful physically. And I think this kind of makes them want to kind of retract and not talk about their experiences. And men, I have clients that doctors work in Wall Street, work in industries around the world that have these experiences, and they tell me, please, you cannot tell anyone about my experience, or they want absolute privacy. And it's usually because, they're usually head of household and they have to maintain a certain image and maintain juggling all these things. And so to have the discussion sometimes is a little difficult. The experiences for men are slightly different in that usually for the men that are not necessarily as conscious, they're having extremely vivid dreams. And even though sometimes they have scars on the body as a result of that, or scoop marks, as they call them, or little dots or shapes that are left behind in the body, that tends to be the only thing that's left, unless it's some kind of implant in the body that they can feel. Okay. Aside from that, usually the side effect for a man after having this kind of experience in the hybridization program, usually it involves a sex dream of some kind, in which, sometimes they will wake up strange, sometimes their clothes is all messed up, sometimes they find bodily fluids, on their body and around them. And for an older man that's experiencing this is not something that's normal, for them. And it usually shakes them up really profoundly. And sometimes I notice that they have PTSD as a result of that. I see this a lot in my male experiencers. And sometimes they have a hard time even talking to their partner about it, because the partner will not be into any of this. And usually they will want to judge the partner for having these experiences, or just have some strange reactions. I mean, I've had everything from a wife leaving her husband because of this, because she thought he was having an affair, and he wasn't being honest, because he could no longer have intercourse with her. And, until we did some hypnotherapy and kind of helped process and integrate those experiences, he wasn't able to go back into that relationship. And so these are kind of the side effects that I'm noticing. So the important thing to note is that, men are powerfully impacted by these experiences, and it's really important that they talk about it. Not just men, everyone, because the more you internalize it, the more you become fragmented, and you want to separate yourself from society, because you start feeling that something is wrong with you, or you start feeling that, you're having some kind of psychological breakdown. I mean, I've even had clients that went to a psychologist, and even the psychologist would say something negative or want to put them on medication. And that's just, it's just not very supportive. And it isn't until they come to support groups where there's other men that have, even if it's not the hybridization program, they have other contact, they begin to find parallels in the experience, everything from side effects to things that they see, things that they experience, or how they feel afterwards. So we need to support our men, in this field, because it's not talked about a lot. They're very shy to come out in the public. And we need to create safe spaces for them to share it, hopefully by talking more. If more men experiencers in the hybridization program would come out and talk about even their hybrid children, it would be great, because it would allow an open space for people to talk. The other side, I also see men having a lot of dreams of children, hybrid children, and they don't talk about it a lot, but it's the same. There's a presentation that is occurring. Go ahead, Dave.
I want to ask you in regards to that, because I can see where a lot of men are confused by it. Okay, number one, masculinity. You got to be a man about things. But number two, I mean, when you're having sexual dreams, I mean, we've had those since we were teenagers, going through puberty. So how do we tell the difference between, something along those types of dreams and, not being able to perform with our partner? Mm-hmm. I don't see the parallel.
Okay, well, here's what I hear a lot. Men will have dreams or experiences. Remember, dreams, because dream time is ourselves acting in other dimensional planes. Okay, and so even though sometimes we experience things through metaphor and we don't quite understand some kind of mixed experiences that we're having in dream time, there's a lot actually happening in the dream time, in the dream realm. So what we might think are dreams, especially under this context and specific kind of events, is usually this contact experience. What they're dreaming is that, for example, they get brought in on board a craft. The craft is a spherical room. They're brought on board these silver tablets or metallic tables or benches that they're made to lay on. Sometimes they will wake up, they will have bright lights in their face. Sometimes they will have some instruments around them. They will see the beings in front of them, and they will feel the extraction of their bodily fluids for the hybridization program. And usually after that, they will be brought into rooms. Sometimes they're shown hybridization tanks. Sometimes they're shown cloning chambers of tons of clones. And there are some of my clients that have kind of mixed experiences between hybridization and also military experiences, where they're having dreams on board other planets, whether they're preparing for the military or just carrying out different kinds of activities, in other realms. what makes these experiences traumatizing in the sexual department is that sometimes they're brought into rooms where they're meant to have intercourse with women, and the women, they won't know them, number one. Number two, sometimes in the middle of intercourse, there will be a disruption in what they're experiencing, and it won't be a human female, it will be another species, whether it's a gray or whether it's a reptilian or whether it's some other species that they're actually having intercourse. And so this is actually the most traumatizing that I hear the majority of my male clients experiencing. And what that does is that it causes such a trauma that instead of experiencing any sort of pleasure, which is usually what you're linking this kind of intercourse with, it becomes something really traumatizing and fragmenting because you're not sure where to place that. You're not sure how to respond to that. So that's what I feel is the most traumatizing. There's also in lower agendas where intercourse is made kind of like a show piece, and this is very typical in a lot of reptilian / draconian groups, that people are brought together to have intercourse in rooms where they're like theaters. They're like round rooms of theaters, and they have people have intercourse in the middle. And I think that the purpose of that is to siphon life force from these two people having the intercourse, as well as participating in the darker agendas of the hybridization program. So that's also another thing that I see happen. And just that experience of being exposed and vulnerable in front of so many people is also very traumatizing. So that's another thing.
That's almost the exact same reaction that you hear a lot of psychologists talk about when men or women have an addiction to pornography.
Sure.
Because everything is very enhanced and overdone, and you want to live the fantasy. You don't want to live the reality of it.
Right, and that's a trauma that happens as a side effect of sexual trauma. Right. Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, I think the other side of it also is anytime there's any kind of technology brought into the picture, like mechanical, because a lot of time in order to collect specimen, it's not always through the intercourse, it's mechanical, and that can also be traumatizing to the person, to the subject. Sometimes they will have marks on their body as a result of that the next day, and they will be confused. They don't know how they could have a dream about that and have marks on the body. It's just very shattering, to your reality. Kind of like what we experience as mothers being introduced to your children all of a sudden. These men are also experiencing that kind of shattering of where your dream is now your reality, And so these are things that we have to handle with care. And we have to support and listen. So the support groups are really important for that. So if you're a man experiencing and you don't want to share, please, you can even come to the support group anonymously. I'm going to want to talk to you beforehand before you join, but come and at least listen to other people so you can begin to process that you're not alone in that experience.
It is a difficult experience whatsoever, but I mean, look, there are people out there, who claim that, that they have had, seen people that they know on craft, that they've had relationships on craft, but those relationships are really disconnected on this planet. I'm not just saying sexually here. I'm saying just overall. How come there are certain people out there where you can see them up on craft or in dream state or whatever, having the experience, but on this platform, there, on where we are in the 3D world here, there is no connection between you and that person whatsoever.
Yeah, that's really interesting. There's two aspects of this. There is cloning programs that exist, and the government, the higher levels of government here on Earth have a cloning program, as well as these interdimensional beings also have cloning type programs. So this is one possible answer to this, because what's being cloned is the genetic information. So beyond the complexities of human relationship and whatever illusionary life paths we've created with one another here on Earth, the genetic information is what's key. And so a lot of times that will be what's utilized through the clones. However, other times, if it is the person that, for example, we're interrelating with on Earth, some of these are induced. Because, one time I was taken on board a craft, and they bring you into these circular chambers that are made of light, that once you enter through there, it's almost like you have this intoxicating feeling. And then the intercourse occurs in these chambers. It's like chambers of light. It just doesn't really look like a solid room. It's just a light that once you enter in that space, you are wanting to mix with this person. You're wanting to have intercourse with that. And it doesn't even feel like you're doing something wrong. It's just you're designed to do that. You just do it and you go separate ways. So some of this is also induced. Remember that their ability, their technology is incredibly advanced, and they can remove and add and edit emotions within your body at will, really, okay? It also interacts with implants that we have in our body, depending on whatever program we're participating in. Implants that manage our nervous system, that are monitoring bodily fluids, chemistry in the body. So these things can be managed, and the military does also function in this way. They utilize some of that technology as well. So that's some ways to take a look at it. They're the two possibilities, because I have had experiences with people that I never met on Earth, but when I met a person in a support group, for example, I recognized them from the craft. Now, I don't know what occurred with that person. Sometimes they remember more than I would, but you just recognize one another. So I think that we are grouped genetically, and we're kept kind of in similar vicinities, because remember that all events on the terrestrial plane, it's genetically modifying our DNA through epigenetics. Remember that. And even though there's subtle changes, we're experiencing things terrestrially and interdimensionally that are also editing the DNA. So we are genetically modified humans, GMOs, and that allows your genetic code to be specific. When you combine that with another organism, the program of you even incarnating on this planet is kind of pre-planned. So we come together in families, friends, cities, based on our genetic allocation that's pre-planned even before we come in. So we also have to keep in mind it's a very complex system.
Definitely complex. We got about 6.5 minutes left with you tonight, Geraldine. When we are meeting people, what are the actual chances of meeting people on craft and then seeing them in human reality? Like I have seen people when I have had experiences. Mm-hmm. Okay. Then there are people who I have claimed to have seen me. I don't recall them. All right. Or there are people who I've never seen them again after that. How do we know that this is not just some projection in our head, that there are other people around, or even people that we know?
Yes, and it could very much be, because there is screen technology that is being utilized also. This is what happens with those gentlemen that are experiencing a beautiful woman and then it turns into a reptilian or something. And the same thing happened to me with a man. It looked like a beautiful man and then it just changed into a reptilian face. So those kinds of screen technology is being utilized, and all of the data that informs that screen technology is taken from the subconscious mind. So that being said, even though the experience of putting these two people together can be constructed, it's intelligently designed based on our subconscious. What they know will trigger emotion in you. Okay, so for example, certain features in a face will trigger you specifically. And so they design these images, or they bring partners that will induce that feeling. Now, I also want to say one more thing. The way that the intercourse is created, the entire intercourse will define the fetus. Okay, if the intercourse is made through inducing feelings of love, it sparks a different vibrational frequency within the fetus. It is literally the fetus, the moment that the semen enters the egg, there is an explosion of vibrational frequency that is encoded with specific information. And when love is done, when intercourse is done with love, that frequency is extremely different. It is geometrically balanced structure of a human organism. When the intercourse is done through pain, suffering, fear, completely different structure, geometric structure of that organism. It's going to be, messed up. It's not going to be the same. That's why that organism grows up to be counterproductive. So keep that in mind. Love and pain in these programs is essential to creating the product, the end goal, the end product.
Okay. Does it always revolve around intimacy?
No, because some of these insemination programs are done mechanically, and some of them are not even in the physical body. Only, I would say, probably about 10% of these hybridization programs are done with hybrid hosts, which is the mothers, and using the fathers. The rest of it is done with genetic information that's taken out of the body, and then it's done like in a petri dish and then created into incubation tanks. The earlier the fetus is removed from the body, the longer they can keep it in the incubation tanks. If the fetus is removed later in the gestation cycle from the human body, usually those are children that will be birthed quicker, because the process of gestation is sped up, very, very much so, when it's in the gestation process. So if you see them in the incubation tanks, usually they're fetuses that are teeny tiny, usually a couple weeks old. That's why a lot of women, they're pregnant up to 3 months maximum, and then the fetus is removed from the body. So yeah.
All right. Well, we got 2 minutes. Let's get to Kaiju's question. What is the purpose of hybrids? Are they created to keep their species and ours going?
Yeah, but it's not about species at all. It's about genetic information. You are a cocktail of DNA. DNA is a vortex. Essentially, it's a braided vortex into data of vibrational frequency. Every species is a spectrum of frequency. So when we have certain genetic information inserted into our DNA structure, you have access to all of the genetic data of this species, supposedly. I don't call it species, I call it the vibrational frequency, because even those ET races are hybridized. You have to remember that even all ET races are also hybridized. So essentially the purpose is to sustain a matrix multiverse, like an organism that I was explaining earlier in the show. Each hybrid that is placed on other different planets is sustaining life continuously. The question is, how are we participating? When we're unconscious, we participate in parasitic life forms. When we're conscious, we participate in productive life forms. Beyond that, we have the free will to choose not to participate in the sustainability of this matrix, if you choose so. Because in this matrix, you're experiencing duality either way. So hopefully the soul will incarnate enough times here that they want to experience something beyond just the three-dimensional plane. That's when we start creating on other levels. And sound, shapes, color, vibrational frequency becomes the matter of creation rather than living organisms. So this is just some ways to look at it.
30 seconds. Tell everybody where they can find you.
All right. So if you want to get a hypnotherapy with me, check out GeraldineOrozco.com. And I have DNA reprogramming, which helps you reach the root cause of your traumas, blockages. And if you would like to join the support group, international support group at hybridmother.com, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I have really, really great videos on there that you can check out at Geraldine Orozco. And that's about it. Someone asked about my Instagram. It's Geraldine Geraldine.y.orozco. You can find me on Instagram. And that's
There
it.
you go. And Intro Alchemy on
Is my
Twitter.
Twitter, yes.
That is right. Geraldine Orozco is the spiritual you. We will see her again next month here on Spaced Out Radio. For some of us, we get to see her at the end of this month for UFOCon 2022 in San Francisco. It should be at our Vegas party, April 22nd and 24th. Hour 3 is next. We're heading into the swamp with Swamp Dweller.
Much love. See you soon, Davey.
We'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right. Yes. Bye.
Later.
So excited. Bye.
Bye. All right, Geraldine Orozco, everybody. Hello, the gorgeous Wagon Breath, November 3rd. How are you? Francis Begbie, welcome to SOR Chat. And who else is here? Little Jimmy Goodall. There he is, little Jimmy Goodall. Paradox Fossils, didn't see you sneak in. How are you, man? Thanks for coming on in. John McDowell, welcome to SOR. And don't leave. We still got an hour left, people. No need to all of a sudden disperse because the gorgeous and talented Geraldine is gone. The gorgeous Dave is still here. Still here. Not as pretty, I know, face for radio. But we're here. We are here. Coyote, what's happening, man? Jimmy, you got to bring Bob down to the SOR party. You got to. Convince him. Good morning, Body Tech. How are you? Michael Gutierrez, what is happening? Hey, the Quick, what's going on? Thank you. I gotta trim it up a little bit. It's getting a little too long now. Getting a little too long. You rad. Gotta love little Jimmy Goodall when he's in the chat room. James Goodall, one of the most brilliant authors of aviation in the history of aviation. Seriously. Brilliant man. To be able to call him a friend is friggin' amazing. Who just murled me? Someone just murled me from Facebook. I gotta find them now. Kobe Belson, welcome to SOR. Yes, Geraldine is, excuse me, is amazing for sure. a lot of knowledge. Getting the opportunity to talk one-on-one, excuse me. My son gave me a little bit of a cold on the weekend. Now it's acting up in my throat. Excuse me. Jackson is in the other room. Same as the court. Well, that's good, Jim. How's your wife doing? Can you update us, please? She doing better? Yeah. Well, as long as she's getting better, Jimmy, that's all that matters. All that matters. God bless her.
Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Here we go with the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. We really do appreciate earning your listening ears wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and digitally on TalkStream Live, Revolution Radio, and KPNL. All of our archives are free. Do it by joining us at spacedoutradio.com, right on our YouTube channel as well. And, of course, the Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Deflocculate. Deflocculate is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. It is that time once again where we head into the swamp. Yes, our resident swamp dweller is back for another edition of Swamp Dweller Spooky Stories.
Hi, Spaced Out Radio listeners. This is Swamp Dweller. It's time for your nightly dose of spookiness on the show. If you have an interesting encounter or a spooky story that you would like to share, be sure to submit them in at swampdweller.net. You can also find our YouTube channel at youtube.com/swampdwellerreads. Now, let's chill out, relax, and together, let's enter the swamp. I have always kept an open mind about the creatures that can roam our world, partly because I'm inquisitive by nature, and partly because of my mother. She always taught us to be aware of our surroundings and respect nature. One of the first things she taught me was to listen to the animals. They will tell you if something is out there. One time, years ago when I was a teenager, we had traveled to my dad's hometown in Texas for a family reunion. His hometown is small. You can walk through the central part of the town in less than an hour, and everyone else lived in homes further out usually. They usually had about an acre or more of land around their homes, which was very nice and private. In the evening, we had joined my dad's large family at a hoedown near the edge of town. There were people dancing and drinking and having a good time. while me, my brother, and one of our cousins and her friend just hung out watching the festivities. We were talking about these teenager things that you'd always talk about, just who we liked or disliked at school, etc., We looked out towards the edge of the party, where a fence bordered the location. We were at this separated area, where it separated the yard from the scrubland on the edge of town. We could not see far out since night had fallen, and the lights on the poles of the fence only illuminated the fence and the brush around it. As I looked out, I noticed something. An object that was half hidden by a small tree, but odd in that it was not swaying in the breeze like the rest of the foliage. I pointed it out to my brother and cousin, who spotted it as well. As we observed it, a few things became clear. It was a creature, about 5 feet tall if I had to guess. It was a tawny brown color, like a coyote. One of us asked if what it was a coyote, but we could definitely tell it wasn't. It was just too big. We cautiously, or foolishly, made our way closer to the fence till we were only 20 yards away from it. This thing was a further 10 yards from the fence on its side, just far enough to be out of the range of the light. We stopped in our tracks as we could see enough to make out that this creature wasn't something we'd ever seen in our lives. It was a creature, covered in fur, hunched over on long legs, with human-like arms. Long, gnarled hands ending in sharp claws. Its head was half hidden by the tree, but we could see a canine-like head with a long snout and pointed ears, just like a coyote. It was staring at us, and we were staring at it. We quickly ran back to the party, realizing that we were closer to this thing than we were to our own families. If this dogman, a term we didn't know at the time, was as fast as the werewolves we had seen in movies, the fence would have been no obstacle for this thing to get us if it felt so inclined. We were all shocked into silence. Once we were back at the hoedown, we just sat there and looked at each other. Did we just see that? Do creatures like that really exist? We were simply stunned at this encounter. We didn't even know who would believe us, so we just said nothing. The next day, my family was heading back to Oklahoma. My brother and I were secretly relieved considering what we had seen. But my cousin and her friend lived in Texas, in my dad's hometown, which was part of that thing's territory. I hope she never had to see it again. I quickly moved on from that night, but that encounter has always been in the back of my mind. As time went on, and I learned about creatures that people have seen in the woods, I heard at least a name put to what we had seen, and I hoped I'd never see anything like that again. But as they say, careful what you wish for. In 2019, I was out on my boss's farm for a 3-day work excursion in the summer. His farm is about an hour away from Oklahoma City, and 80 acres of land that's mostly woods and pretty isolated. His nearest neighbor is probably over a mile away. I had been to his farm many times over the years and was very familiar with the woods around his place. There was a trail that led into the woods from the compound, and I'd walk it every morning with his dog when I came to work there. I never walked to this trail alone, and never unarmed. Not because I was worried about Dogman or Bigfoot, but because wild boar was known to live in the area, and they were the ones I was worried about. In all the years I had been up here, I had never heard about Bigfoot or Dogman being seen in the area, but plenty of boar. On this particular day, I set out towards the trail in the late afternoon, his dog Buddy right at my side. The trail was not exactly well traveled, and it was more grass than dirt. Halfway down the trail, where it was more open ground, I could already see a few deer tracks, some raccoons, even an armadillo scrape in the ground. As I was counting the different tracks, Buddy wandered off the trail into the trees to sniff at something that caught his attention or find a place to pee. I called out to him to not wander far, stepping towards the edge of the trail to do so. As I did, I looked down and saw something that made my heart stop. Right at the edge of the trail, right where the bare earth gave way to grass, was a large canine-like footprint. bigger than any footprint Buddy could ever hope to make. As he was a 75-pound German Shepherd, and I have a 150-pound Great Dane at home, and even his paws aren't this big. I put my size 10 boot next to it, and the track was over half the size of my boot. It was decently fresh, no more than 24 hours old if I had to take an educated guess. I looked back from where the track led, but could not find any more tracks of this thing. It's like this thing jumped over the trail to avoid leaving prints in the dirt. Something jumped 15 feet across the trail to avoid leaving any trace of itself. I quickly looked around and strained my ears, but I could still hear the birds singing, insects chirping, and even Buddy was calm and relaxed. I called Buddy back to my side and set off down the trail to get back towards the barn. I did not want to stay any longer in case whatever made those footprints was still in the area. Further along the trail, it became more surrounded by trees and leaves covered the trail. It's only because I had walked this trail so many times that I knew how not to get lost. But as I navigated the trail, I noticed a large branch that was right on the edge of it. Branches were nothing new on the trail, of course, and with the ice storm that had occurred over the winter, many trees had lost a lot of branches. This one itself was 12 feet long and the size of my forearm at its thinnest, and larger than my thigh at its thickest. But what made me notice this one was that it had been turned over. I could tell by the imprint in the leaves and dirt. While hogs could and would turn logs over for food, hogs did not do this. There were no hog tracks or scrapes around it, and I was mentally traced back to the trail behind me where I had seen that footprint. I realized that this branch was right in the line with the footprint. And when I noticed that, everything had fallen silent. No birds, no bugs. I looked for Buddy, but he was no longer at my side. He had continued up the trail and was now 10 yards ahead of me, looking back at me with a nervous posture and seemed to say, "We need to go now." I briefly looked around me but saw nothing in the woods, but I remember my mom telling me that old phrase, "You may not see them, but they can see you." I put a hustle in my step and caught up with Buddy, and we continued up the trail, and all but ran to the barn since I cleared the tree line. I couldn't help but think in the back of my mind once I was back inside, they're here. They're here in Oklahoma. It's foolish to assume that they just wouldn't be here, you know? This week, my brother had told me that his coworker thinks he saw a dog man on the edge of his property recently. His coworker lives in El Reno, Oklahoma. My boss's farm is only 10 miles from that town.
Wow, another gripping edition of a spooky story from Swamp Dweller. And of course, we love Swamp Dweller around here. You could go support him at his YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Swamp Dweller Reads, or just type in YouTube. And we have, just type in Swamp Dweller in the search bar. It'll take you right to him. He's getting like 1,000 people a week right now, lately. 1,000 subscribers a week. Guy's amazing. Absolutely amazing. We're just waiting to connect with Bigfoot Michigan Rob here. Poor guy has been having some computer issues tonight, and we're hoping that we can get those done up. While we're waiting for Rob, I wanted to pass this story on to you guys, and we'll probably talk a little bit more about it with our good friend, the fedora-wearing John Hudson, tomorrow night. But Daniel Otis, who is a freelance writer for Vice World News magazine online, vice.com. He is a great Canadian journalist. He has really been on the prowl, trying to find the Canadian UFO story. And literally, he just obtained 500 plus reports spanning 290 pages of dozens of strange sightings from commercial pilots, soldiers, and police officers. Now, up here, these files have been pretty quiet up until now and up until recently. For some reason, it's not a point of contention up here. The UFO story is comparatively to what we see down south. I'm going to read a little bit of this article to you guys here. It says, obtained by Vice World News through Canadian Freedom of Information laws, the reports were made to federal transportation authorities as recently as last year, when a Canadian military flight spotted a bright green flying object that flew into a cloud, then disappeared over eastern Canada. Other unusual observations include Newfoundland police tracking two brightly colored flying objects, and where are we here? In August of 2001 and again in December 2018, a passenger flight from Alaska to Seattle that reported pulsating lights descending from 60,000 feet. Now, former fighter pilot in the Canadian Armed Forces, John Williams, call sign Jock, says, I would be inclined categorically to believe anybody that reported something. There's no upside to making a fake report. Williams is an aviation consultant who has worked as a federal flight safety officer. There is definite reluctance to report stuff, he said. I'm amazed at the amount of material they sent you, and some of it is actually pretty good. That was to Daniel. Apparently, loads of civilian sightings as well, such as a large glowing object seen hovering quite quickly back and forth just above a tree line near Peterborough, Ontario in January 2011. One uncommonly long report event even details a sighting that was confirmed by military radar, happened 2 days before Christmas on 2018, where a fisherman in the Bay of Fundy and a woman at home in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia, both contacted search and rescue to report a light that was yellow, steady, and hovering high above the Atlantic Ocean. When the Canadian Air Force personnel reviewed the radar from NORAD, they also found it as well, with 3 primary radar hits. It's kind of impressive when you look at it. You know, you really have to take a big step here. Big step here, because getting any news out of Canada is tough. It really is. Now, I could personally say I haven't tried the avenue of going with the freedom of information myself. I know people like Daniel have, but you know what? I'm proud of them. We need these stories to come out. We need them to happen. And hopefully he continues with his hard work. Great work, Daniel Otis. You can read the article on Vice. Let's talk some Bigfoot. We got Bigfoot Michigan Rob in for the Cryptid Report, as we have Super Duke Sullivan. He's on the injured reserve list tonight. That's all right. We got you covered. Bigfoot Rob, how you doing, buddy?
Well, I hope I'm coming through. I hope I'm coming through good.
Well, so far, so good. I know you've been having some computer troubles over there. You know, you haven't gone all Hulkamania on them just yet, but you're doing your best, and we'll try and get it through here to the bottom of the hour. You got a good story for us in the latest reports there, Rob?
I do, David, and welcome. Last week, I did a show with David Parker, Life with Bigfoot, and it's an interesting show, Dave, that we had. This guy has lived with 20 Bigfoot over the last 5 years. And I'm going to start out by saying that he lives in the Missouri Ozarks, 10 acres of property, 80% of it is wooded. And his first sighting was about 5 years ago. He heard about, as he estimates, it was about 30 coyotes were just going off, yelling, screaming, making their sounds. And at this time, he was cutting wood in his backyard. And he lives between a gully and a pond, and the sounds are coming from the fence, the tree line. So he went to bed that night, and the next morning he goes to the tree line, and he sees about 18-inch tracks embedded in the ground.
Wow.
Now, prior to that evening, I should say that he did see a silhouette of something that was dark and tall. So he calls the DNR, and they send out a conservation specialist or officer. And the officer says, well, show me what you got. So Mr. Parker takes the conservation officer to the edge of the tree line, up into the woods, shows him the tracks. And the officer said, what do you think you saw? Well, David says that he thought it was a Bigfoot. The conservation officer replies and smirked at him and said, you know, you should have shot it in the face, because Bigfoot is not an endangered species in the state of Missouri. So David Parker, he's kind of appalled at what this gentleman told him, this officer. And he said, okay, thank you very much. You're a lot of help. Being facetious, of course. Proceeds back to his home. That was 5 years ago, approximately, when that encounter happened, when he had spoken with the conservation officer. We're going to fast forward 5 years. So David gets charged with some former BFRO investigators that are now solo investigators, not a part of the BFRO. One of them was Dave, as you well know, Carter Bouchard.
Yes.
Who had gone to his property, and again with a group of other individuals not associated with the BFRO, and started inspecting his property. During this 5-year season, or this 5-year span, David Parker was saying that he's been having all sorts of activities, and he needed some help. And during this 5-year period, Mr. Parker had said that there's at least 20 Bigfoot that live on his property. Now, note the title of the podcast, the show, was A Life with Bigfoot with David Parker. This man has literally lived with these things for 20 years. You know, the BFRO, former BFRO agents and Mr. Bouchard, they did some research and said, yes, we think you have some suspected activity. And that was it. They left, filed their report, whatever they did. So throughout this time period, these Sasquatch have been coming closer and closer to his home. He's starting to get a little scared. And they're throwing rocks at his house, and they're making whoops. They're screaming, they're yelling at night. They're keeping him up. Now, David Parker, mind you, lives in the middle of nowhere. 10 acres, Ozark Mountains, Missouri. Single man. His wife passed away. He's beside himself. So one day, he decides to get with First Nations people, Native Americans in that area, and says, look, I've got a problem. It's not threatening me. It's not causing any harm, but boy, you know, I can't sleep at night because I hear things at night. Walking, footfall, yells, whoops. My dogs are up at night. I can't sleep. I don't know if the next day I'm going to survive or not, albeit not being threatened. Still, he had some apprehension, as I think anybody would, and he just wanted
Rob,
help.
Rob,
Yes.
I'm gonna get you to hold on there because we're gonna continue it. I'll bypass the Magic 8 Ball and continue with the Bigfoot reports here momentarily here, okay? Because I do want you to get this story. I'm captivated by this story. Living with 20 Bigfoot. 20 Bigfoot. I can't find one in BC where I am, and this guy's got 20 in the Ozarks. Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, the Cryptid Report tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We will continue right after this. We'll get to Shirky Poo's news as well. Stay tuned. All right, we're clear.
Okay. So am I coming through good, man? I'm sorry, man. Just
don't worry about the picture. Just we could hear you fine.
Okay, good. Okay. Good. As long as that's the most important. Thank you.
I think it's the blue headband.
Well, I had a match tonight. I had to match the background and, get everything together. And I do apologize, Dave, because I'm quite embarrassed. I got a nice system here, and I don't know what the problem is. I think 3 weeks ago, it seems like after 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, when you think that your band service should be at its maximum, for me, I think it's the opposite. So I'm going to have to trash this system. I got to start over. I don't know. So I apologize to everybody out there for any difficulties.
No worries.
So, yeah, Dave, man, you're going to abandon the Magic 8 Ball, and I had a great question to test its authenticity too, man. And I had a question that I know if he was going to be on tonight.
Well, I mean, I could sneak it in. That's not an issue.
How much time do we got? We can maybe sneak one question in.
I haven't warmed it up yet.
Yeah, well, then, it might be cold because the answer that I want is, well, we would see.
The answer is you need a Bowflex. A Bowflex. No, I'm teasing. I'm teasing, man.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you, we won't use it tonight. Maybe when we get closer to Las Vegas, because I was going to ask, and write this down, Dave, we'll remember. If Dave Scott is going to take down at the poker table playing Texas Hold'em, Bigfoot Rob, who is going to take who? Who is going to take who?
Not only am I taking Bigfoot Rob, I'm taking Carter Bouchard's money too. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Carter's only played the World Series of Poker 3 times, and he's hit the money.
Yes,
the dirty bastard, right?
Yeah. Oh man, that's great.
I'm taking both you Bigfoot bastards down. That's what I'm doing, little Canadian style.
Well, you can't do any remote viewing. You can't look ahead into my cards.
Oh no, I'll just read you, man. I'll read you like a book.
Yeah, okay. I'm sure you will, man. That's gonna be exciting. I can't wait, man. I've already booked my stay.
Yeah, me too, man.
I'm going down Thursday, by the way. But I gotta jet out on Saturday night. I don't know if that's because. Yeah, well, we're gonna see for right now. But I'm gonna be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Thursday. Okay, that's cool. And Thursday.
I get in at about 2:30 on Thursday.
I think I get there at midnight Thursday.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you're getting there late. Holy cow.
Yeah, so I'm still trying to finagle that because to me that's kind of a waste of a day,
Mm-hmm.
Get there at midnight and you're charging me for it. It's like, and I'm sure knowing me, I'll be up till I won't go to sleep because I'll be so geeked. So I'm trying to make some arrangements. Yeah.
I'll be at the poker table. So. Don't worry about that. You'll know where to find me.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yep. It'll be at the poker table or the bar.
Right. I haven't been to the Gold Nugget in 10 years, perhaps. So I'm excited to see the downtown area.
Yeah. It's been about 10 years since I've been on the old strip. The only reason why I chose it there is because it's so small, you know, and everybody
Yeah.
can be compact with each other and hang out. We're running into each other, not so
Yeah,
spread
right.
out.
You can find each other. Exactly. I thought that was a great
Yeah.
decision because you go to some of these
Yeah.
bigger hotels, it's a sea of people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. We got about 45 seconds, buddy.
Again, I apologize. I don't know, man. It
Don't worry
just
about it.
really infuriates me. It does. So we'll leave it at that. And thank you very much,
That's
Dave,
all
for
right.
having me on.
It grinds your gears there, Grandpa Simpson. All right. Big thank you to Paradox Times 2, Wagon Breath, Doug, Anthony, Obi, Thomas, Tim, and Cat Chaser for the amazing super chats. Thank you so much for your love and support of Spaced Out Radio. Thank you to everyone who's a regular in our chat room, all the new listeners. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. Give us a thumbs up as well. Thank you to all the veterans tuning us in as well. You always have a safe home here in our chat room. Here we go. We rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Appreciate you tuning us on in. Want to remind you that if you've missed most of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read Shirky Poo's Newswire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on TikTok at Spaced Out Radio. We continue on tonight with our good friend Bigfoot Michigan Rob. He is in for the Cryptid Report. And Bigfoot Rob, you were telling us a weird story out of the Ozarks where a gentleman that you were talking about is friendly with 20 Sasquatch.
Yeah, Dave, was kind of hard to fathom that, but doing this for a while, being an experiencer myself, and I learned this from you, man. I believe, right? And I don't care what you say, I believe, and there's always a safe spot. And moving forward, 20 Bigfoot, and now he even broke it down to being 6 males, 6 females, and 8 juveniles. How he came up with that number, I didn't get into it. It was an hour and a half show. I'm breaking it down to synopsis. And so he's went back to the First Nations people and asked them about Sasquatch. He's not scared, but he's in a state of mind that isn't quite right. Wants to know what's going on where he's living. And as an American or as a white person, the First Nations, Native Americans, they're not all that open to giving up what they've experienced, and rightfully so. Finally found a gentleman that told him, look, you go out in the middle of the forest. We know that you have over 10 acres of land, 80% is wooded. You have your little cabin in the middle of nowhere in the Ozarks. Go out in the middle of the forest, sit down, and start talking out loud. Start saying, I'm peaceful. I mean you no harm. And then tell them that please stop keeping me up late at night, throwing rocks at my home, making these sounds. And the First Nations person said, and just let them hear you. He goes out in the middle of the woods. He communicates this into the woods. No response, nothing. He did make mention that the woods fell silent Couldn't hear a chipmunk rustling about in the forest. You couldn't hear a cricket. Nothing. Found that to be weird. Went home. So for a week, he had absolutely peaceful sleep, no sounds. About a week after that, he goes back into the woods and he gets a little bolder and he decides that he's going to speak out again because he wants to see these creatures, these Sasquatch. He creates and builds a fire in the middle of the woods. He's summoning them. He's speaking out to them like he did prior. Then all of a sudden, he felt like he was being watched, as we've all heard the story before, and felt a little off. He's in the middle of the fire, and then he notices surrounding him, he sees shadowy figures all of a sudden start approaching from his base camp, moving toward the fire, and they're surrounding him. It makes out like 4 shadowy figures in like a square, one on each corner, and they're getting closer. He's apprehensive. He's starting to get a little nervous, and he says, "Oh, my Lord," he just says that. He tells me they appear in front of him, 4 Sasquatch. He says they were all males, anywhere from 8 to 12 foot tall. He saw them covered in hair, black hair, head to toe, looked somewhat human and somewhat different than you or I, but a human element. And he got on his hands and knees and said, "I mean you no harm, please leave me alone." And he's looking at the ground beside the fire, looks up, they're gone. They're gone. And then the next day, he goes back to a meadow, an open meadow, and he notices all these, and he sees 2 or 3 very big, as he said, animals on their 4s, standing that were herding a bunch of deer together in a big circle. And he's watching this, astounded. What's going on here? Shadowy, bigger figures, look like animals, all 7 foot tall, and he can't. He thinks he knows what it is, as everybody listening is figuring out what it is, but herded the deer together in a big circle. And then another couple shadows come in on all 4s. Now he can see it. They come in, they attack the deer, they hunt the deer, they get what they need, and they drag it back off into the wood line, assuming that they took down the deer for their food, hunted them down. And so now he's kind of scared and goes back to his place. Another week later, they're back by his house, back where he lives, and he starts to just communicate, saying, "Please leave me alone." And then in his brain, he hears something that says, "We're not here to harm you. We respect you. We are going to live here with you, amongst you. Peace." And that was it. Now he claims to have named 6 of the 20 Sasquatch: a Lulu, a Beth, a Rick, a John, a Marsha. Never has mind spoke again with these creatures, but he can feel their presence. They can feel his presence. He just got married with a woman. They've accepted her. They don't throw anything at the home. They live in harmony. And as I said, David Parker, A Life with Bigfoot, and he lives with these things. And the story, it's on our channel. It's a great story. I cut it up. I edited it best I could. It was an 1.5 hour long story. I believed the guy. He was genuine. And I was taken aback, Dave. I was, and it's a story I won't forget.
That's incredible, Rob. Incredible. When you have that type of contact, I mean, does this guy live on his own acreage and that's where he's having this contact happen?
Yeah, as I mentioned, he lives in the Ozarks. He has 10 acres of property, 10 acres that he owns outright. And where he lives, 80% is surrounded by the woods. So he's basically, his cabin, his home is in the middle of this. 20% is cleared where he does his work, where he built his house, where he has his field, does his gardening, what have you. But 80% is all wooded, all around him. And he was telling me that when he goes to like the local grocery store, he goes to a month worth of supplies because it's like 45, 50 minutes from his home. So he is really in the boondocks.
Brutal. Absolutely brutal. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, to have that type of communication, how close is he getting to these beings?
You know, he was telling me that the one time when the force surrounded him, where he actually could make out their faces, that was within 50, 60 feet. And he was telling me another story in the show that one actually came into his house, literally came into his house in his basement, and he heard, and he's got, and his stairwell that comes from the basement up to like his kitchen, it's like 10, 11 feet of worth of space from the bottom of the steps to the top of the ceiling. And one night he heard some heavy footfall coming up his steps from the basement, and he's wondering, well, who is this? I mean, this man lives by himself. He recently got married a couple months ago. So really basically has no friends or family in the area. So he thought somebody was breaking into his home, but he felt that he was really threatened because the footfall coming up the steps from the basement was very heavy. And at the bottom of the basement, it's a walkout basement. There's a big picture window that he can open. So with no door. And he goes into his kitchen. There's no kitchen lights on. He goes into his kitchen, looks where the door is, looks around, and he tells me that peering around the top of the staircase at the door is a big hominid-looking face covered in hair. He goes, what? He yells out, what? What's going on? And it sprinted down through the bottom, out of the bottom of the basement, through the open window that was down, left open, or was gotten open, and was gone. And he found 21-foot tracks, 21-inch tracks, I should say.
21 inches.
He said 20. He said he has seen tracks from 6 inches up to 21 inches.
Holy cow.
He said he has seen shadows as tall as 12 foot.
Dude, that's like a 1,000-pound creature. Plus.
Yeah. In fact, David, that's a great observation because he even made mention that when he heard the footfall or the steps coming up his staircase, that he thought they were going to crack. And in fact, he said there's actual impressions in his staircase going up from the basement to his kitchen, where it's like curved out. And another interesting thing is we talk about the metatarsal break because he's taken several casts, sent me some pictures. There's no metatarsal break in any of the prints he's taken. For those that don't know that, a chimpanzee, like you go to Dr. Meldrum, you go to all these scientists that will try to classify Bigfoot as an overgrown ape or chimp because of the metatarsal break. Well, a chimpanzee, metatarsal break is a separation from the heel to the foot. That's what they have the innate ability to do. And a lot of people say Sasquatch has that, and I believe that, and I've seen castings, but these castings he's taken does not have that. It's flat-footed, which is very interesting. And So that, again, when you think you know something, you go down another rabbit hole. Because, I was always taught, I guess, by the so-called experts, right? And nobody's an expert, that this is what's associated with Bigfoot. Well, this guy's seeing these things, and that is not even the case. So it makes me wonder, again, another thing to ponder, Dave. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. That is just amazing, my friend. We only got about a minute and a half here with you. Obviously, is this guy a researcher, or is he just somebody going through the experiences?
Well, he calls himself a researcher. He was never intended to be a researcher. That's why he says A Life with Bigfoot. That's what he's on Facebook. It's called David Parker, A Life with Bigfoot. Check him out. Yeah, he just lives with them, and I guess he technically researches them because they live with him, but he doesn't go anywhere else. He doesn't go to California. He doesn't go to British Columbia. He just stays right there because he says that that's all he needs, and he's learning every day. He's got some fabulous stories, and it was quite an impelling tale that he told us on the show.
Well, you know what? Good luck to him and his contact, my friend. Very good luck. I hope it continues. I want that to happen to me, Rob. 20 of them? I want it to happen to me.
I can't fathom it, Dave, but you know what? Yes, I'm right there with you. I think that would be just... I don't think the brain could process that, Even in talking with this gentleman, I don't think he's even processed it. I mean, I think he still lives in a state of, I won't say disbelief, but it's surreal. It's like,
I hear
wow.
you.
He's just like, wow. I was wowed. And I'm sure that everyone listening tonight is wowed. So, again, when you thought you've heard it all, you hear something different. That's why I love doing what I'm doing today, man.
Beautiful. Bigfoot, Michigan Rob, always a pleasure to have you on Spaced Out Radio and filling in for the vacationing Super Duke Sullivan from World Bigfoot Radio and the Cryptid Report here, my friend. We really do appreciate you.
Thanks for having me on. I'll do it anytime, Dave. I feel like part of the family for you over here. So anytime, buddy. I love it. Thank you very much.
We love you too, my friend. All right, let's get to Shirky Poo's news. All right, what has Shirky Poo got for us tonight? Let's find out. Oh, she's a little razzle-dazzle tonight. The old razzle-dazzle from the Shirky Poo. It's a good way to go if you think about it. The Earth is getting gradually warmer, and it has many strange and often harmful effects on plants and wildlife. But there's one phenomena that nobody saw coming. And it seems that last summer's heat wave in British Columbia here got the local bees a little too hot and bothered. Yeah, in the summer heat, death literally came from the male honeybees. Humana. Yeah, the humana bees. Yeah, well, that's what we need to call them after reading this. Yeah, let's just say that the bees were so hot, they ejaculated themselves to death. You can't make this up. Yep, beekeepers here in British Columbia found potentially hundreds of drones, male non-stinging bees, dead around their yards and farms. Each of the small insect corpses had experienced the same gruesome death. Their genitals had exploded out of their bodies. Ouch. Turns out that excessive heat could make drones spontaneously and fatally ejaculate. And that's just what the heat wave brought to Western Canada last year. Now, with such heat waves looking extremely likely, Canadian beekeeping could be in jeopardy. If there's a silver lining to all this, at least the drones probably died very happy. Yep, Emily Huxter, beekeeper from Armstrong, literally about 4 hours south of Old Davie here, she says that when the temperature started soaring in June, she became concerned for her bees' well-being. The buzzing honeymakers can't sweat, so they rely on external measures to regulate their body temps. To this end, she set up a burlap sack covered in kiddie pools around her farm, so that way she noticed that the drones started flocking to the pools. That makes sense. Unlike the female worker bees, who can fly around and at least cool off in a breeze, the male sits around in a hot nest doing all the work. But one morning she came out to check, found a real gruesome scene. It was a bee orgy. And yeah, they were all dead. Pretty much. I don't even know where to go with that. Turn the heat down. Got to save the bees. Truth. Very, very truth. Right there. Right there. Yep. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. You know who you are.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night, Mr. Bumblefoot. We need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night. But soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night. Sorry, YouTubers, about that. That was completely my fault. Completely my fault. I thought I had turned my mic back on after I started coughing, and I guess it didn't go that way. So I apologize. Excuse me. So I apologize, guys, for that last couple of minutes there. If that's the worst thing that happens, though, we've had a good day. We've had a good day. That's okay. There's Bigfoot Rob still hanging out.
Hey, what's up, David?
Well, apparently I forgot to turn my mic on.
Yeah, I heard that. I was trying. Yeah. I can't figure. I'm trying. I stayed on because I want to make sure that everything's all set here on my end. I don't know.
Yeah, what's with your crazy end here, man?
Yeah, it's all, it must be the woo factor because we do our show at 12. When you think everybody's online, you wouldn't think it. Right. It's 3 a.m. here, so you think nobody would be online, right? But apparently they are. I don't know. Crazy. It's happened more than once on the show. I might have to break down and get a new computer system. I don't know. I plugged right into the router, so.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
Yeah. So.
That's good. All right. Let's get that downloaded.
So
I could feel my voice turning on me about 6 o'clock, 6:30 tonight. And I was just like, oh, come on. Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Nothing we can do.
Yeah, well, you talk. I mean, you have your day job and you talk at night. I mean, you're probably 90% moving the chaps, flopping the gums, right?
Oh, I hear you.
It's got to wear down after a while.
Yeah, it's usually Wednesday. Usually Wednesday when it hits me. Not this time, no. Not this time. No, hits me on a Tuesday. But I was actually battling a little bit this weekend. My son brought home a case of the sniffles from school. Because believe it or not, Rob, that still exists. Sniffles.
Yeah. The sniffles, definitely, they exist. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, I woke up this morning with a little bit of a sore throat. In the middle of the night, I had to go put some Vicks Vapor Rub on the old throat.
Years ago, I used to take the Vicks. Well, my mother did. And she would, when I had a congestion, she would take the Vicks. I guess boil water in a pot, and I'd lean over with a towel, suck it in, and I haven't done it since.
Snort it on in.
That's it. Take it on in. You can feel the lungs expand.
We're watching.
Oh, well. We'll get over it.
Yep. So, yeah, Dave, I'm looking forward to coming down there to Vegas. Like I said, I got to make a couple of different arrangements, man, because I don't like the leaving out on Sunday. So I got to make some alterations.
What's with that?
Well, I'm trying to play this game because I'm going to Alabama for a Bigfoot conference. Me, Tex, and Jason speaking in Alabama, which is cool. I'm excited about that. That's at the Bigfoot conference with a bunch of notables, Ken Gerhard and stuff. So that's going to be cool. There's one in Atlanta. So I'm going to be traveling about the next 3 to 4 days with our team here on our channel, which is really exciting. So I'm trying to finagle money for this and that and everything else. So, and I don't want to leave Sunday because I know it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I just can't find flights that have that the time matches up. That's my biggest problem. Again, Thursday I get there at midnight, And then Sunday, the Sunday flight was leaving at 2. I said, why should I leave at 2? Because there's gonna be stuff happening at, probably 6 o'clock on Sunday. So I'm like, I'm trying to get that straightened out. The schedule's not meshing right now for Robbie. The schedule's just not meshing. So we'll make it happen one way or the other.
Well, you need to.
Oh, it's going to happen. With that being said, man, it's, busy every day and trying to finagle that and everything else. So.
Oh, I hear you, buddy. I hear you. Not a problem. I know you'll do your best.
Oh, of course. Of course. And with that being said, I'll let you run. I've got a few things I still have to do before I go to bed here tonight. And
you go. Call it the night. Thank you for filling in for Super Duke.
Yeah, anytime. I love coming on the show and giving out the reports.
We love it. We love it when you're here, brother. We love it when you're here.
All right, I do too. Thank you, everybody in chat. I love all you guys, and we'll talk to you on the flip side.
All right, buddy. Take care. Have a good night. Sleep well.
You too. Thanks. Take care.
Super Duke from World Bigfoot Radio there, people. Hi, gorgeous D. Swagger. How are you? I'm actually surprised my voice is being like this because I pounded hot sauce for dinner. That usually kills a lot of it. What the hell is this one? Oh, okay, there we go. It's number 3. I'll be fine for tomorrow night. Just got to get through the juicy phlegm buildup. True. True story. Oh, Steve, every night. Every night. Absolutely. That's a staple. Not even embarrassed by it. Not even embarrassed by it. Make it happen. It is one of those beautiful gifts from God, man. Just saying. Okay, Davey. We're gonna send you the good stuff for tomorrow so you can perform. All right, guys. I'm gonna let my throat kind of calm down for the night. I know if I continue to have the chat going, I'm gonna want to chat with you guys because I'm gonna feel obligated. Well, not obligated, but it's just kind of my job. But I'm gonna go rest my throat, so I'm gonna log off of this, and we'll see you all tomorrow night. Tomorrow night on the show, we got Jeremiah Fountain. We're talking Sasquatch tomorrow. Should be a good show. We've had Jeremiah on about a year and a bit ago, and it'll be a lot of fun. Thank you tonight to Cat Chaser, Tim, Thomas, Obi, Anthony, Doug, Paradox, Wagon, and Paradox again for the super chats. Thank you to all the veterans who are out there. We love you. We'll see you all tomorrow night, okay? I'm going to go get some rest here, guys. Take care.